Before Stitch became Experiment 626, Dr. Jumba Jookiba was already deep into a secret project most of the galaxy knew nothing about. A graduate of Evil Genius University, Jumba's work was funded by Dr. Jacques von Hemsterville, an ambitious alien with dreams of controlling planets. Over his career, Jumba created 633 experiments, each with a unique number and stored in pods. The first 100, from 000 to 099, were part of Jumba's test batch. Some were made for simple tasks, while others showed hints of the powerful traits that would eventually lead to Stitch. His name was Zero. Built in the very early days of Jumba's experiments, Zero looked like a purple version of Stitch at first glance, but this one was stronger, smarter, more dangerous. Zero was nearly impossible to destroy. He could stick to walls, spit acid, resist fire, and take bullets like they were nothing. His brain worked faster than most machines, letting him react in ways no one could predict. But Jumba didn't stop there. At some point, Zero was rebuilt. His soft body was replaced with black metal and sharp limbs. His legs became spider-like. His arms turned into machines that could shoot lasers or launch harpoons. Even half of his face was swapped out with a steel plate, giving him a frozen, terrifying stare. This wasn't just another experiment. This was something darker. Unlike Stitch, who later learned how to feel and change, Zero had no path to kindness. He had no bond with Lilo, no growth, just raw destruction. Jumba saw what he had made and shelved him. To this day, Zero is considered the most unstable and forgotten version of Stitch, but this was just the start. It all started with Experiment 001, Shrink. This was Hamsterville's first funded project. Shrink had the power to change size, either growing things huge or making them tiny. That alone made him dangerous. But from there, things took a strange turn. Some experiments had powers that were just confusing. Experiment 002 was named Double Dip. His mission? To take food, lick it, and put it back. That's it. Not explode a planet, not destroy cities, just ruin the punch bowl. Somehow, that almost feels more evil. Others are even more mysterious. Take Experiment 003. How come? That's the name. That's all we know. No powers, no design, just a number and a question. But for every mystery, there's one we did get to meet. Experiment 007, known as Gigi, looked like a tiny white dog. She was made to annoy people with non-stop barking. But in the end, she became Myrtle's pet and lived like any normal Shih Tzu. Her power was simple, but it worked. Then there's Experiment 009, Pop. He could inflate balloons with his tail to fill entire rooms. Then he'd pop them. The sound would leave people stunned, confused, and totally disoriented. Experiment 010, Felix, looked like a small green vacuum with an elephant trunk. He was made to clean everything he touched. At first, he overcleaned and sucked up anything in his way, including things that weren't dirty. Jumba tried to fix him, but went too far. Now Felix does the opposite. He dirties things just to clean them again. This was the pattern for most of the first 100. Some were made to test strength, while some were just jokes. But before we move on to the next ones, just know that not every experiment made it to the screen. In fact, most of them didn't. Out of the full lineup, there are 449 experiments we only know by name and number. And beyond that, 36 other experiments were shown only in pod form. Their capsules were seen, but we never saw them activated. Let's move on with Experiment 014, Colonel. Now, Colonel is not your average world-threatening experiment. He's a popcorn machine. Yes, you heard that right. This little guy has a slot on top of his head that pops popcorn when Jumba's watching movies. It's the simplest of tasks, and it's hard to imagine how something so goofy made it into the mix. Moving on to Experiment 020, Slick. Slick is a fast-talking salesman who doesn't stop until he makes a deal. He can sell ice to an Eskimo, and he'll keep talking until you buy it. Normally, that would make him a complete nuisance, but Lilo managed to turn him into a community asset. She used him for fundraising, and just like that, Slick went from annoying salesman to local hero. Then there's Experiment 021, Twang, another one that doesn't quite make sense. Twang's whole purpose? To annoy people by playing folk music. Now that's definitely a unique way to spread chaos. We never see Twang himself in the series, but we know his DNA was used to create another experiment, 145, which tells us a bit about the lasting influence of this musical menace. And if you thought Twang was strange, wait until you hear about Experiment 022, Hertz Donut. Hertz Donut is a seahorse-like creature with one job: trap people in donuts. It sounds ridiculous, but that's exactly what he does. He lures his victims in by asking, "Have you ever had a Hertz donut?" before firing a blast of energy that wraps them in a giant donut. Then we have Experiment 024, Hamlet. Hamlet's a mystery wrapped in a riddle. Not much is known about him except that he has an ability to turn anything into ham. It sounds like something out of a fever dream, doesn't it? And yet, Hamlet somehow fits into the chaos of the experiments. Experiment 025, Topper, is another quirky addition to the crew. Topper was initially designed to serve as a light beacon to signal the invasion of an intergalactic army. But as fate would have it, Lilo found a better use for him. He now acts as a shining star atop a Christmas tree, visible from galaxies away. And as absurd as it sounds, it fits perfectly with his role in the community. He's not an invasion signal anymore, but he's still a shining star, literally. Next, we move on to 029, Checkers. Checkers isn't just a cute name. He's a powerful experiment with the ability to hypnotize anyone who looks at his crown. The catch? His powers don't work on blind people or other experiments. Still, when you put him on your head, you become a king or queen, with anyone who sees you falling under your spell. In the right hands, he's a powerful tool. In the wrong hands, well, he's just a fancy hat. For the more physically oriented experiments, we have 033, Hammerface. Hammerface's face is, as you might guess, a hammer. His original purpose was to hammer nails into walls, but as you can imagine, that hammerhead can get a little out of control. Sometimes he ends up hammering faces instead. Then there's 036, Pokey, designed to poke holes with his spiked tail. Whether it's making leaks in pipes or just causing general mayhem, Pokey has one goal: to make a mess. It's a simple, somewhat annoying job, but Jumba knew how to keep things interesting with his experiments. Experiment 040, Backhoe, brings the construction chaos even further. Backhoe is a mole-like creature designed to dig and destroy vegetation. Whether it's digging tunnels or tearing up the landscape, Backhoe's job was to be a little destructive force of nature. Not all experiments had the most useful talents, though. Experiment 044, Forehead, is a perfect example of an experiment that just couldn't quite find its place in the world. Forehead has four heads that sing in a barbershop quartet. The problem? They're completely off-key. It's painful to listen to, but somehow Forehead found a home with Mrs. Hasagawa's cats, where his off-key singing became part of the quirky atmosphere. And then there's 047, Loritor. This little guy is definitely one of the more bizarre creations. With an accordion-shaped body, Loritor was designed to embarrass people by pulling down their pants. His mission? Pure chaos. His power? Hilarious. But much like many of the other experiments, Loritor ended up in a place where he could be more of a playful nuisance than anything truly destructive. Then, things took a bizarre turn when Jumba started getting creative with chocolate and chaotic powers. Experiment 051, Hawker, was a creation designed with a very unique trait: acidic spit. Hawker's saliva can eat through almost anything, making him a seriously destructive experiment. But in the world of Jumba's madness, Hawker ended up as one of Mrs. Hasagawa's cats, causing trouble in the most unexpected ways. Then, there's experiment 052, Coco, who might be the sweetest experiment around. Coco has the ability to turn objects into chocolate. It's a pretty simple skill, but who wouldn't want a pet that can turn your things into chocolate treats? Even Lilo saw the potential in this, and Stitch gave Coco to her as a birthday gift. Following Coco's sweet nature is experiment 054, Fudgy. Fudgy's ability is a bit more sinister, though. Instead of turning things into chocolate, he's actually made of chocolate. But unfortunately, he wasn't designed to be a cute little treat. Fudgy was created to drown people in chocolate. Yep, that's right. Jumba had a serious chocolate obsession going on. It's a terrifying thought, but Fudgy definitely lives up to the chaos of Jumba's creations. Next up is experiment 062, French Fry, and he's truly one of a kind. This experiment speaks French and was designed to be Jumba's personal chef. With a spatula for a tail, French Fry can whip up snacks in an instant. But, of course, his food wasn't exactly the healthiest. He had a knack for making people gain weight, so much so that he would eventually eat them. Luckily, French Fry had a change of heart and now runs a low-fat French Fry hut, offering healthier options. Not all of Jumba's experiments were born from chaos. Some, surprisingly, had more harmless or even adorable powers. Take experiment 074, Welko, for example. Welko has the ability to create indestructible bubbles. These bubbles can trap enemies, but the real charm is that Welko looks like a balloon animal, making him one of the more adorable experiments. His bubbles might cause some trouble, but at least they're cute. On the flip side, there's experiment 077, Zop, who's about as far from cute as you can get. Zop was designed to be a major annoyance by snoring incredibly loudly. His snoring is so obnoxious that it could drive anyone crazy. As one of Mrs. Hasagawa's cats, he's certainly a source of noise and chaos, but not much else. Then we have experiment 086, Clink. Clink is a crab-like experiment with a prison cell built right into his chest. The idea behind Clink was to capture enemies by splitting himself in half and then rejoining around his target. While split, each half of Clink operates independently, making him an interesting but dangerous experiment. Clink might look harmless, but he's got a surprising ability to catch and trap with ease. Jumba didn't stop at chocolate and quirky pets. He also dabbled in time manipulation. Experiment 089, Skip, is one of his most interesting creations. Skip was designed to jump 10 minutes into the future, which sounds like an awesome power, right? Well, Jumba made a slight error during his creation, and Skip ended up jumping 10 years into the future instead of just 10 minutes. He does have a reset button, which can send him back to the correct time, but his time jumping ability remains a bit of a wild card. Lastly, we have experiment 090, Fetchit, whose details are a bit of a mystery. All we know is that Fetchit is another one of Mrs. Hasagawa's cats. Unfortunately, not much else is known about this experiment, but he's part of the quirky mix of Jumba's creations nonetheless. And with that, we're done with the 0 experiments. Now it's time for the 1 series where things get wild and disruptive. Seeing how much you all loved our deep dive into the 0 to hundreds, we're back with the next wave of Stitch's cousins. And things are only getting crazier from here. After testing the waters with the Zero series, Jumba decided to stop hiding his madness and started making experiments that could collapse society out in the open. Experiment 102. Stop Go is exactly what he sounds like. A living traffic light. He was built to create the worst traffic imaginable. Fortunately for us, Stop Go now lives a quiet life as an actual traffic light, keeping intersections in line instead of tearing them apart. Next is Experiment 103 Stamen. This one doesn't yell or explode or stomp on things. He lures bees away from flowers, stopping pollination entirely. No bees means no crops, and no crops means chaos. He's basically famine dressed as a flower. Then there's 110 Squeak. He never stops talking and can crank his voice up to a painful pitch, using his mouth like a megaphone. He was designed to annoy entire planet. Fun fact, his look was inspired by the old cartoon character Sniffles. 111 Mulch has a push mower between his legs and shreds everything he walks over. He's like lawn care gone rogue. Of course, Miss Hasegawa adopted him as another one of her so-called cats. 112 Toons went through a few upgrades. He started by turning people into cartoons, then became whatever drawing he ate, and finally gained the power to bring 2D images to life. Luckily, spinning his color reverses the effect. 113 is Shu, the luck bender. His normal setting brings bad luck. Flip the horseshoe on his head, and it turns good. Now he helps people score hole-in-ones at mini golf. 119 Inverto is best known for being mislabeled. His pod was upside down, so Hamsterville thought he was experiment 611. That mix-up becomes important later. For now, he's basically a clerical error with a number. Experiment 120 Snafu exists to ruin any plan he hears. Try to trap him, and the plan fails. He can only be caught by accident or sheer luck, which makes him dangerously unpredictable. 122 Dorkifier shoots beams from his horns that turn people into walking fashion disasters. The effect lasts until his horns are turned off. He's like middle school in laser form. 123 Carmen uses her maracas to shoot energy, forces people to dance until they collapse. The only way to stop her is to clap her maracas together. Bonus, she speaks Spanish fluently. Experiment 124 Rhymer is a bit of a mystery. He was only mentioned once due to a labeling mix-up. No powers, no backstory, just a name and some confusion. If nothing else, he proves not every experiment gets their moment. 128 Bugby turns entire civilizations into bugs, permanently. Only Jumba's tech can reverse it. He now works on a farm turning rocks into ladybugs, which is oddly wholesome for someone who could have ended humanity. 133 PJ was built for harmless pranks. Think of him as a living joke channel. Instead of pulling stunts online, he now opens for Moses's hula shows. 134 Shredder is exactly what he sounds like. A paper-eating machine with razor teeth. Naturally, Miss Hasegawa adopted him too. Her house must be zoned for chaos. 145 Bragg used to annoy people with tall tales, but after a reprogramming, he now tells sad stories and plays the harmonica while looking like a fluffy yellow bunny. He's cute, but strong enough to fight Stitch. 148 Weasel was made for one weird task: run up political leaders' legs during speeches to embarrass them. That's it. Apparently, Jumba was in a petty mood that day. 149 and 150. Bonnie and Clyde are a high-tech crime duo. She's the brain, he's the brawn with a robotic arm. They broke into anything until they got caught and paroled. Galactic Justice is surprisingly forgiving. 151 Babyfire looks like a baby and turns others into babies with powder from his rattle. The cure involves a strange smoothie with coffee. He now works at a dog shelter, turning old dogs into puppies. Cute and mildly disturbing. 153 XYZ was never shown. All we know is that he was designed to unzip pants. That's it. That's the whole thing. 158 is Finder, a surprisingly helpful character. He can track down any lost person or object using his nose. He also flies with his ears like helicopter blades and celebrates discoveries with a honking sound similar to a party horn when he successfully locates what you're searching for. 164 is Liz Dixia, and she does exactly what her name suggests. She makes people temporarily unable to read. She's every student's worst enemy, or best friend, depending on how badly you want to get out of a pop quiz. 177 Clip was built to eat a rare energy source called Ubernium. But there was a language mix-up, and in Jumba's language, Ubernium also means hair. So now she just eats hair, and every time she does, she grows. She ended up at a hair salon where eating clumps of split ends is somehow considered helpful. And we end with
Experiment 199, Nosy. He was meant to dig up military secrets. Instead, a glitch in his programming made him obsessed with gossip. Now he just spreads rumors and juicy drama. Forget spy mission. Nosy is basically an alien version of TMZ, and he loves it. After disrupting public life with the hundreds, Jumba shifted gears. His next batch of experiments weren't built to annoy people at bus stops or mess up golf games. These were crafted to target machines, data, and anything powered by electricity. The chaos technically starts with Experiment 201, Geigenstein. Unfortunately, nobody really knows what he does. There's no appearance, no powers, just a name. But from 202 onward, it gets loud. Jam, Experiment 202, looked like a gremlin with wings and claws and a constant scowl. He screeched so loudly he could jam radio signals, radar, or any kind of communication. In the middle of a battle, silence could be deadly, and Jam made sure of that. Few numbers down, we meet one of the simplest and funniest experiments. 204, No Sock. This guy looks like a washing machine, and his only purpose is to steal your socks. Then there's 210, Retro. He's small, green, and built like a T-Rex. Wrap anything in his tongue, and it reverts to its prehistoric form. But here's the kicker. He can undo it if you spank him 3 times. He eventually got a job reviving extinct animals at a wildlife park where spanking is probably discouraged. Experiment 214. Pix is here to ruin your photo day. With 3 tripod legs and a camera for a nose, he takes pictures that distort your face into something you'd expect in a funhouse mirror or horror movie. He spits them out instantly, so you don't even get a warning. Say cheese and regret everything. 220 milli is one of the laziest designs Jumba ever approved. 10 arms, all made to do one thing, plug air filters. That's it. 10 arms, one job, possibly the most forgettable experiment ever made, and probably one of the most annoying in a spaceship. Now Sparky, Experiment 221, is in a completely different league. He can transform into raw electricity, travel through wires, zap systems, and fire bolts from the antennae on his head. He's like Stitch if Stitch could power a city grid. In fact, that's what he ended up doing, keeping an abandoned lighthouse running entirely on his own. Next is 222, Poxy, who was basically weaponized embarrassment. He infects targets with a weird virus that gives them purple pimples, stinky feet, and uncontrollable burping, only in the right eye. There's no explanation for the eye thing. It's just specific and gross, which is Jumba's specialty. Glitch, Experiment 223, takes things further. He infects technology and turns any device against its user. Somehow, he found a second life inside a video game console where his sabotage actually made the games more fun. Remember Clip from the hundreds, the one who ate hair instead of fuel? Jumba fixed that mistake with 225 Mashi. He was built to crush the rare, valuable fuel source called Ubernium, and his dinosaur-like body could destroy indestructible gems. His purpose was to cause an intergalactic fuel crisis. 227 is Butter, a living battering ram that looks like a woolly mammoth. If there's a door in his way, it won't be there for long. Then 228, Melty, takes the opposite approach. He's a tiny dragon that fires melting blasts hot enough to liquefy steel. He now works in recycling. It's less exciting, but at least it's productive destruction. Kingpin, Experiment 229, was meant to be used for training exercises, like a target dummy. But he's extremely unlucky, which means no one can hit him. Not because he dodges, but because people literally miss every shot. That's about the only thing he does. Experiment 234, Shush, was built to spy. He has massive ears and a speaker on his tail, making him the ultimate eavesdropper. Cobra Bubbles quickly recruited him for CIA work, because of course he did. Who wouldn't want a talking wiretap? Experiment 248 is Belle, which sounds like a lovely name, until she screams. Her shriek is loud enough to scare off attackers, and now she works as Nani's alarm clock. Probably very effective, also very bad for your hearing. 249, Sproing, has a giant spring in the middle of his body. Originally meant to launch boulders, he now helps people reach high places by stretching upward like a bouncy ladder. 251 is Link. He traps people together using sticky goo from his antenna. The bond is unbreakable, except on Earth, where mud dissolves it. He now works at a couples therapy cliff diving center, gluing people together so they're forced to jump as a team. That's either genius or illegal. Mr. Stenchy, Experiment 254, is so cute it's dangerous. Enemies would bring him back to their base, thinking he was harmless, and then he'd release a horrible smell that forced everyone to evacuate. But on his home planet, that smell is considered delightful. So he went back and now lives like a celebrity. Then there's 255 Mrs. Sickly, who looks just like him but smells sickly sweet. Her scent causes nausea, dizziness, and regret. If she and Mr. Stenchy are ever in the same room, their odors mix and create a reaction strong enough to destroy an entire planet. So, maybe don't let them carpool. 258 sample, records random sounds and loops them endlessly. He now makes beats for a band called Fox Roswell and the Tall Grade, which is probably the most unexpected but perfect ending for a living soundboard. Ace. Experiment 262 wasn't supposed to exist. Jumba made a mistake and created something with zero evil. Ace is completely good and has a hero complex the size of a galaxy. He now works for the Association of Alien Rejects and is basically what would happen if Superman joined the X-Men. Wishy-Washy 267 grants wishes, but way too literally. Wish for $1 million and get a herd of deer. Also, he only gets a limited number of uses. Once his chess meter runs out, that's it. No more wishes. Forever. 272 is Wormhole, and he might be the most powerful in the set. He opens portals into parallel universes and understands every language. That means he can go anywhere, survive anywhere, and confuse everyone along the way. Multiverse chaos is just another Tuesday for this guy. Alexander, 274, is far less impressive. He was made to run up long-distance phone bills. That's it. Galactic nuisance via overpriced calls. Kind of brilliant, in a low-budget kind of way. 275 is Tickle Tummy. She has long fingers and an evil grin, and she tickles people into submission. She's absolutely terrifying. Not because she's strong, but because she thinks it's funny. Remy, 276, was designed to sneak into your dreams and twist them into nightmares. If you wake up while he's in there, he stays forever. Thankfully, Jumba reprogrammed him, and now he works creating virtual reality experiences instead of eternal sleep torture. Snooty, 277, was built to mine Snoonian, a rare, unstable energy source. Earth doesn't have any. Human mucus is similar enough, so now she works cleaning out Victoria's sinuses. Gross, but apparently effective. 285 Lax is the reason your motivation disappeared. One zap from him, and you're done for the day. He's now stationed at an airport where he calms down angry tourists by draining their energy. TSA approved. Boomer, 288, is another of Miss Hasegawa's weirdly functional pets. He's a living boomerang. Throw him, and he comes right back. Not very dangerous, but very helpful when it's time for dinner. And finally, there's 297, Short Stuff. He shorts out mechanical devices and causes chaos wherever he goes. Then he got hit by an enlarging ray and turned into an amusement park ride. Now he causes chaos on purpose, and people pay for the privilege. That brings us to the end of the 200 series. But we're not done yet. The 300s through the 600s are still waiting, filled with love experiments, elemental powers, mind control, and creatures too powerful to ever be activated. If you want us to dive into the rest, drop a comment below and let us know. If no one speaks up, we'll keep them sealed in their capsule.